Game week 1 is in the books, but who are the game week 2 picks that can help you build on a strong start or bounce back from a poor one? Let's find out. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of FPL Hall or Nothing. It is Thursday, August 22nd. My name is Ewan. On today's episode, I'm going to be going over 15 players who are 5% owned or less in FPL and what kind of difference they can make for your side this weekend. The deadline is Saturday, August 24th, 11 a.m. UK time, 6 a.m. Eastern on the States, and then wherever else you are in the world, like it's 12 o'clock for me here in Germany. So adjust that clock. Don't miss that deadline as game week 2 is right around the corner. A little note is like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the podcast, wherever you're watching or listening. Any support is always appreciated. Just right off of the top there. Trying to grow the channel, we got 2 episodes a week coming. So the punts of the week, the hauls, or whatever you want to call it, and then some kind of like team selection, team preview. Once the MLB season winds down, those will be a little bit more in depth, but for now, we're going to keep them a little bit short and sweet as the season kind of builds up in FPL terms. The first international break is right after game week 3. So 3 game weeks, then an international break, and then a little bit of just kind of rest, reset, see where we all are. But hopefully game week 1 went all right for you. Went okay for me, 60 points, 3.6 million in the world or whatever. But yes, do not fret. Game week 1 is in the books. That's all. 60 points in most game weeks is pretty good. It's just some people play chips. Some people just go all out for game week 1 to try and get as high as possible. And yeah, that's where we're at. So if you want to follow me on X for all my rotoballer.com writing, you can follow me there at F1U and FPL, as I do also cover F1 fantasy as well. Maybe you know me from that channel, F1 fantasy pole position. So head over there if you want any F1 fantasy content as well. Let's start off with the defenders this week in game week 2, though. We've got Andy Robertson, Tyreek Mitchell, Aitnery from Wolves, Thibaut Livramento from Newcastle, and Harry Maguire from Man United as the 5 defenders to watch this week. Robertson is 4.9% rostered in FPL. That may go up a little bit this week. This is accurate as of Thursday morning. He has Brentford at home this week, 38% chance of a clean sheet and 4.26 predicted points according to the rotoballer.com rankings. Next up is Tyreek Mitchell here, 2.4% rostered. Gets West Ham at home, 26% clean sheet odds, 2.89 predicted points. And as for Mitchell, he had about 0.15 XGI last weekend, and it should have been more because there was a chance in the first half, if you watch that game, where Ebre Esse was right in on goal. Mitchell was steaming down the left wing, was wide open. No one was covering him. People were double teaming Eze, and Eze went for the shot, barely missed it. But man, Mitchell was right there. And he honestly looked a little bit more attacking than Daniel Munoz. So that is something to think about in FPL. Mitchell is way more of a differential than Munoz. Well, it's about 2.5%, but I think Munoz has a lot more steam among the engaged community. So if you want to even be a little bit more differential from people who are watching FPL content, creating FPL content, Mitchell may be the choice over Munoz. Going back to Robertson there, versus Brentford, he's on the left-hand side like Mitchell. Mitchell was getting forward a lot in that first half and at some points in the second half. That's Robertson's side for the Liverpool defense. So I think the Scotsman can get his first return of the season here. Aitnery for Wolves, a little bit more challenging. 2.3% of teams have him right now. He gets Chelsea at home, 13% chance of a clean sheet. So you'll probably be relying on an attacking return here. 2.41 predicted points from the rotoballer.com rankings. And in general, not a lot of people are going with Wolves because their first 8 games are just abysmal. They've got so many tough teams in their upcoming schedule for the next couple of months here. However, Aitnery still looked pretty attacking in that Arsenal fixture, and sometimes class just outshines the tough fixtures. So I don't think I'll be going there yet, but there could be an opportunity to maybe get on Aitnery before he becomes super popular on wildcards or around game week 9 and 10. Livramento here, 2.2% rostered at Bournemouth, 21% chance of a clean sheet, 1.68 predicted points. This kind of all depends on how Eddie Howe is going to shake up his defense because Fabian Schär is going to be out for 2, 3 games at least because of his headbutt on Ben Brereton Diaz. So Livermento is competing with kind of Lewis Hall and Kieran Trippier for his spot in the lineup. And it looks like, according to the rotoballer.com rankings and projected points, they are not saying that he's going to get his fair share of minutes. They predict, by that kind of math, they're predicting he gets less than 60 minutes this week in FPL. So not as surefire of a bet as it was in game week 1 because Kieran Trippier really hadn't trained, but we're going to have to wait for Eddie Howe's kind of press conference and see what he says about his back line and how he's going to shake that all up. And then last here is Harry Maguire, less than 1% owned, 0.7% of FPL teams own him. At Brighton, 23% chance of a clean sheet, 1.77 predicted points. This also kind of depends on what Eric Ten Hag does with his back line. Maguire was in the squad against Fulham on Friday night. It was a little bit of a surprise with all the new signings. You would think that he was coming off an injury over the summer that caused him to miss Euro 2024. However, he got in there, got the clean sheet. So Maguire, not the most exciting pick in the world, but does have a little bit of aerial threat going against Lewis Dunk and Jean-Paul Van Heck. So there's something to consider there. That would be the ultimate punt because I don't think I see myself kind of having Harry Maguire there for the long term. But these are the 5 defenders that I would be willing to take a punt on in game week 2 if you are so inclined. Andy Robertson, Tyreek Mitchell, Rayan Ait-Nouri, Timo Livermento, and Harry Maguire. Moving over to the midfielders here, and there's way more choice for midfielders under 5% owned in FPL than there are compared to defenders and even forwards. So we've got James Maddison, Brian Mbeumo, Jeremy Doku, Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Brennan Johnson here in the top 5 midfielders. Maddison looks fantastic in that first half against Leicester. Leicester did look pretty bad, so I'm a little curious to see how Tottenham does against maybe stronger opposition. Leicester came on in the second half and Maddison did kind of disappear, but Maddison, Brennan Johnson, and Pedro Porro were linking up with some fantastic play in that first half and the second half until Leicester scored that first goal. Then it kind of all went away, but I was pretty impressed with the right side of that Tottenham attack. We need to get an update on Pedro Porro's status as well, because if he's out, it's not catastrophic, but it does take a pretty creative force out of that Spurs kind of attack. But he has Everton this weekend, 26% chance of a goal, 38% chance of a assist, 4.25 predicted points. Brian Mbeumo was the star of game week 1, kind of just bursting out of nowhere and reminding everyone of what a good FPL asset he is. 4.6% of teams have him right now. He's at Liverpool this weekend, so that's probably going to keep his roster percentage down for another week at least. Hopefully the price rise doesn't come until game week 2. 20% chance of a goal, 16% chance of a clean sheet, 3.46 predicted points. The thing that a lot of people, we weren't considering Brian Mbeumo, is because Thomas Frank, the Brentford manager, told us that Ivan Toney has been training. He's probably going to be in the team, all that stuff. And that was all lies, all absolute lies. He didn't make the squad. Rumors are that he's off to Saudi Arabia to make his money, maybe kind of get his career back on track a little bit. Maybe another team can come in for him next summer, but it sounds like Ivan Toney is going to go out the door before the August 31st deadline, and Brian Mbeumo will be back on penalties, back on corners, back on free kicks, and just another fantastic asset like he was at the beginning of the 2023-2024 FPL season. Jeremy Doku here, 4.3% of teams have him versus Ipswich at home, 31% chance of a goal, 37% chance of an assist, 4.59 predicted points. It was early in the season last year when people were considering just like playing their triple captain on Erling Haaland. I think it was against like Bournemouth at home or something like that. And Haaland came off at halftime when it was 3-0. And Jeremy Doku got 5 attacking returns that day. I think it was like a 21-point game or something like that for Doku. So got to keep him in the back of your mind. He does take a lot of he's definitely not like a creative assisting force, kind of like a Kevin De Bruyne or a Rodrigo or a Silva, or now Ilkay Gundogan is back for Man City. He definitely kind of shoots first, asks questions later, which is a little frustrating if you are an Erling Haaland manager. However, he's still got a ton of talent in that right foot coming off the left-hand side for Man City. And I would expect him, if he gets the start, to grab 1 or 2 attacking returns, even if it's at the expense of Erling Haaland, which I know there's been people talking about the triple captaincy chip. I think I'd still avoid it. I know it's game week 2. I know it's Ipswich at home. It's probably the best single game week fixture that anyone is going to have the entire year. But there are double game weeks coming along. There are going to be less double game weeks, but just having that in your back pocket, using it so early is just a little bit nerve wracking for me. But if you're a little bit more gung ho of a manager than I am, go for it. If that's what your gut is telling you, definitely play that triple captaincy chip. Callum Hudson-Odoi here, 3.5% of teams have him. He's at Southampton this weekend, 13% chance of a goal, 18% chance of an assist, 3.45 predicted points. Forest were a little disappointing. Bournemouth on the road, you'd think like at the City ground, they would have been a little bit stronger. They looked a little flat at times, wasn't overly impressed with what was going on there. However, Callum Hudson-Odoi did have his fair share of set pieces, so that gives him a tiny bit more upside. And then Southampton on the road is one of these fixtures that if Forest want to stay in the Premier League for another season, they have to take advantage of. They have to get 3 points here. And at the same time, Southampton also have to get 3 points against these kind of teams at home. So hopefully it's a little bit of an up and down game, a little bit of a attacking, flowing all over the spot kind of thing. And Callum Hudson-Odoi can get on the mark for the 2024-2025 FPL season. Brennan Johnson here, I kind of touched on him already with James Maddison. 0.7% of teams have him. I was considering him in my Game Week 1 team. He did get the start in Game Week 1 against Leicester over Dejan Kulusevski, but he did come off. He gets Everton at home this weekend, 31% chance of a goal, 27% chance of an assist, 2.27 predicted points. So those percentages for the goals and assists seem awfully high for someone that's only predicted to get 2.27 points. But I think he is a minutes risk with how many attackers Spurs have at their disposal. Solanke, Son, Johnson, Maddison, Kulusevski. I'm forgetting someone as well. There's usually 6 on here. Richarlison, did I say Richarlison already? I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, there's just 6 guys going for 4 spots. So there's always going to be some form of rotation. The encouraging thing was if you're a Dominic Solanke manager, he played all 90 minutes. He was the only one of those attackers that started the game to finish the game. So guess his fitness is not a worry. Ange Postecoglou believes in him quite well. And yeah, gave him full 90 minutes. He looked a tiny bit rusty at times, Solanke did, but I expect that's going to be rectified this weekend against Everton. Moving over to the forwards here, the final section of today's episode, podcast, wherever you're watching or listening. Like I said, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the podcast. Would greatly appreciate any support here. For the forwards, we've got Yohan Wissa, Danny Welbeck, Jamie Vardy there in the picture, Nicholas Jackson, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Wissa is 3.7% owned in FPL. At Liverpool this weekend, like Brian Mbeumo, tough fixture to go to Anfield. 19% chance of a goal, 11% chance of an assist, 2.11 predicted points according to the rotoballer.com rankings. Yeah, with Ivan Toney going out the door, there has been rumors that Wissa is maybe on the transfer market, maybe going somewhere before the deadline, but we will find that out over the next couple of weeks. But right now, he's a Brentford player. Right now, he's in the starting lineup, and that is good enough for me. 3.7% rostered at Liverpool. Liverpool looked pretty good at times versus Ipswich, pretty calm, cool, collected in the second half. The first half was a little bit of a different story. However, that was on the road. They are playing at Anfield. I expect the crowd to be behind them. And yeah, it may be a tough day at the shop for the Brentford assets. Danny Welbeck took a fantastic goal at Everton last weekend, reminding us all that, yeah, he's still around. 3% of teams have him versus Man United this weekend. 33% chance of a goal, 16% chance of an assist, 2.9 predicted points. The goal percentage seems a little high considering Man United just came off a clean sheet against Fulham. Fulham didn't have a lot of chances I can remember, like clear-cut chances against Manchester United. So that defense was a little bit better. Well, it was a lot better compared to what happened last season. But yeah, early returns are that the investment that the team has made on the defensive side of the ball is coming to fruition. So it may be a tough day for Danny Welbeck as well. However, Brighton looked fantastic bombing forward against Everton, especially when Everton went down to 10 men. Brighton was just slicing and dicing them like no no regard for human life. They were just taking shots all the time. And Danny Welbeck's goal was fantastic. So great job by him. Should be in consideration moving forward once Brighton fixtures turn, maybe even over like João Pedro. He could be a pretty good differential. Jamie Vardy here pictured, reminding Spurs fans that he has one Premier League title and they have zero. That was just, I'm not even like a Tottenham hater, but if he did that to anyone, that would be fantastic. Just great to have Jamie Vardy back in the Premier League. 2.3% of teams have him at Fulham this weekend. 32% chance of a goal, 10% chance of an assist, 2.72 predicted points here. And everyone's kind of talking about Fulham. Got to take advantage of this Leicester fixture. And like it's going to be one of the ones where you can get 3 points, get comfortable, that kind of thing. And it should be a big day for Anthony Robinson, for Emil Smith Rowe, potentially Rodrigo Muniz as well up top. So a lot of people are invested in Fulham. However, if you're a Leicester fan, you should also be thinking that, oh, going on the road at Fulham is probably one of the easier road games that we're going to play this season. So yeah, like I said with the Southampton Nottingham Forest game, hopefully this game is pretty attacking, up and down, both teams going for it because there's 3 points on the table that are gonna they count the same in August as they do in May. So just think about that if you're one of those fans. So hopefully both sets of teams and managers believe that they can get 3 points. They will go out for it and give us a pretty entertaining game. Nicholas Jackson here, 2.0% of teams have him in their team. He's going to go on the road at Wolves, 37% chance of a goal, 20% chance of an assist, 3.07 predicted points for the Chelsea forward, which seems a little high, if I'm being honest, because he got yanked off at like 65 minutes against Man City. And admittedly, I don't think Chelsea are going to be playing Enzo Fernandez at the 10 every week. Like they played 3 defensive midfielders last week against Man City, against weaker, no offense to Wolves opposition, compared to Man City. Almost every team in the world is weaker opposition. I expect Chelsea to kind of come out more attacking. And yeah, any Christopher Nkunku owners like myself should not worry too much. If things go a little bit weird this week, then we can kind of start to sound the alarms a little bit. But for now, I'm going to keep the faith with Christopher Nkunku. And if you have Nicholas Jackson, I would at least give him one more week because yeah, Chelsea have a ton of attackers. It's just they're adding more and more each day, it feels like. So Jackson, we'll see what they do. Chelsea actually played a night Thursday with some like Europa Conference League qualifying phase. So we'll keep an eye out on that team sheet. And the last one here, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, 1.8% of teams have him. He's at Tottenham, 29% chance of a goal, 11% chance of an assist, 3.24 predicted points, which is actually the highest among these 5 forwards. He's the lowest owned at 1.8%, but he's actually the highest predicted points according to rotoballer.com with 3.24. We kind of saw that Tottenham can give up a goal to a target man, leading man in Jamie Vardy on Monday night. So I guess that logic tracks with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who was pretty unlucky to not have a penalty. It was given, and I've seen it for worse. So I've seen it given for less. So hopefully that is the start of a new kind of change in the Premier League rules where they can kind of overturn that stuff. Like, I don't think looking at it on VAR, it wasn't a penalty, but I've seen them given in previous seasons. So hopefully that means that there's something new in the Premier League rules that is like, okay, just because there's contact doesn't mean that it's automatically a penalty. So in the previous life, Dominic Calvert-Lewin probably pretty unlucky here, but hopefully this is a sign of things to come moving forward in the Premier League. But that's going to do it for the punts of the week, hauls of the week kind of episode for game week 2 here on FPL Haul or Nothing. Like I said, you can follow me on X at UNFPL or F1UNFPL. And you can like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast wherever you are watching or listening. But good luck this game week. I will be back tomorrow with a team selection, team preview kind of, or game week preview kind of vibe, more of a kind of live stream-ish format there. But once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.